Hey there, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Scurvy's Ramblings. Usually, I don't do topical stuff like this, but I figured that I have something to say on the matter. What happened to former President Trump yesterday was a surprise, but also not exactly a surprise to me at the same time. Let me explain what I mean. For the longest time, I thought mainstream media and mainstream pundits and talk show hosts calling Trump fascist and literally the Austrian painter was just rhetoric. However, and as we keep on seeing with a lot of other left-wing rhetoric, it turns violent because the left is full of people who are fucking stupid and have low IQs. Not saying that the right hasn't had its moments either. I mean, take a look at January 6th. Even though that was largely a guided tour, the people in that crowd were also rallied by rhetoric. But at least when right-wingers are rallied by rhetoric, they're not killing people like leftists do. In case you don't know, 3 other people died on that day because one fucking leftist was so radicalized that he tried to assassinate the former president of the United States. Why did this faggot try to take the life of the former president? I think it has to do with all the rhetoric of Trump is literally the Austrian painter. If he gets elected, then fascism is coming to the United States. If he gets elected, it's the end of democracy. Like, that actually has an effect on stupid people. And it turns out, stupid people do stupid things. And what this guy did was fucking stupid. And there's going to naturally be side effects from this guy doing the stupid thing. After doing some pondering about the whole ordeal, no, there's not going to be a civil war, though if he actually did get assassinated, that probably would have happened. But honestly, this is just another example of how leftists keep poking the bear. I know it's an expression, but I don't think a bear is the most fitting thing for the eventual far-right backlash. I think that would be like a deity, so we're going to use Zeus as an example here. A common trope of mythology is a mortal pushing a god to do extreme things, to punish the mortal for misbehaving. What's happening right now in terms of America's political and cultural situation, I see something similar. And I'm not the only one who thinks that way too. Though we differ on quite a bit actually, I would recommend What If Alt Hist's series of videos about the coming far-right backlash. And he speculates on a few different outcomes in each of those videos. Before I get back to my main point here, I do want to disclose that I'm not the biggest fan of Trump. I think he has done things wrong in the first term of his presidency. I think that Trump represents a lot of the guys who feel like they're being beaten down by this anti-culture that we're living in and this corporatist feminist hellhole of a country that we're living in. Going back to the bear analogy, basically what the fucker did was try to stick a knife into the bear, and the bear noticed, and it is going to attack him tenfold. Thankfully, because Trump survived the assassination attempt, I also see this event as a unifying and bolstering moment for right-wingers all across the country. I've seen moderates like Better Bachelor talk about this event. I've seen mainstream news talk about this event. I've seen the Daily Wire talk about this event. I've seen independent internet commentators talk about this event. I've even talked to my friends about this event. One thing's for sure is that I'm glad people are finally noticing just how riled up leftists are. Besides all the bullshit that's on the Twitter trending tab right now, oh, it was staged, oh, the guy missed, blah, 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 blah. We are basically seeing the endgame of this dialectical Marxist nonsense. What do I mean by this? Well, it basically means that anything that doesn't conform to woke leftist nonsense needs to be eradicated. If you think about this on a deeper level, they really have been doing the whole Trump bashing shit at least since 2015. It's only natural that something like this would happen because of all the rhetoric that these people have been spewing out for almost 10 years. When mainstream media is basically framing their political rivals as people who are as evil as the Austrian painter, that is naturally going to radicalize people on your side. Something like this was bound to happen at some point, whether it was before his possible second term or during his possible second term. I haven't forgotten all the hashtag punch a Nazi shit either, and yes, for the longest time, leftists have been calling people like me and Trump supporters literal fucking Nazis. When in reality, if these people ever read a fucking history book, they'll learn that the Nazis were actually left-wing, not right-wing. But they're not going to do that, just like how they're not going to stop calling their political opponents Nazis, and also continue the decades-long shit-smearing campaign against men and masculinity as a whole. Now, I do think that in the future, something will happen. There's way too many disgruntled people, and those people primarily being young men like myself. And I do think that this moment is going to be a turning point, at least in American history. I'm not sure about the history of the West as a whole, but certainly in American history. Already, the picture that you're seeing throughout this whole video, it's already being turned into probably one of the most iconic pictures in all of American history. And overall, I just see this moment as one of the greatest ways to piss off Zeus. Now, when I make that comparison, I'm not saying that Trump is literally Zeus. What I am saying is that you leftists are just begging and begging and begging for this so-called Armageddon to happen. You do realize that, right? If there's any leftist that's still listening to this, I don't know the chances of that happening, but heed my warning, and heed it well. If you keep on trying to push more and more bullshit to become law, aka the LGBT shit, if you try to keep on denigrating young men, if you keep on trying to ridicule the already exiled from society, you're gonna get what's coming to you. I don't know how else to say it. I remember Undead Chronic saying this a while back. I think he was talking to the exiled lioness. The black pill is, we're living in the Weimar Republic. The white pill is that we're living in the Weimar Republic. If you're a disingenuous fucktard, you'll just assume that Chronic would want to suck the cock of Hitler as soon as he could. Here's my interpretation of that quote. The people, primarily young men, will be fed up with all this bullshit and will push back against it in whatever way that they can. I see this more as a cultural thing rather than a political thing, because I don't think there's going to be a violent coup to try and take over the government anytime soon. But I do think that Zeus will be provoked enough that the storm isn't completely cataclysmic. I do think that when this storm subsides, I think America is just going to be a better place as a whole, because things are finally going to be orderly again. When it comes to assassinations, whether attempted or successfully done, what I've noticed throughout history is that a major change will almost always happen, and I think this time is going to be no different. Though I am a pacifist, I've also had enough of the nonsense that's been going on since at least the early 2010s, though in reality, a lot of this Marxist subversion shit has been going on for decades now. I could at least point to the 1920s in that regard. Though what happened on July 13th, 2024 was horrific, I also think there's a silver lining here in regards to us as a country finally getting back to a point of sanity. I'll end this video on a piece of advice that I was given not too long ago. Hang in there. Times are tough right now. The economy is, well, shit, and people are more deceitful than ever. But keep your head high, Do what you gotta do. Get stronger, get smarter, and you'll make it out okay. With all that being said, thanks for listening, everyone.